Ladies and gentlemen, it is that day today. You're looking at Roundtable here. We've got Mike Jaco, Lewis Herms, two of the top guys who are bringing the best information out there in what's happening in this crazy, muddy playing field we're all trying to navigate and figure out. So we're just going to jump right into it and see where this goes for Roundtable today. Lewis Herms doing a lot of work exposing and coming up with solutions how to shut down CPS kidnapping operations, targeting the judges who are going after these kids and exposing the judges and having these cowards reverse course like they always do because they're cowards committing crimes and cutting kids loose. And Mike, of course, every morning, I think it's about three hours a morning, gets up early to find out what's going on for the day around the world, here and abroad. So we'll see where it goes. Mike, I've been out of tune for over a week. I haven't seen anything, like not even alternative news, like what's happening out there in the world this past week. Looks like
He's
Mike,
looking good frozen.
yeah,
You could, you couldn't freeze better than that. There
yeah,
he
no,
is.
you had a good freeze shot there, man.
Oh, yeah, you're lucky. Mine are usually like this.
Yeah, you had a good one. You look better thought out, but the frozen Mike Jaco wasn't too bad. So what I don't know if you heard me ask, I just said, so for this last week, I've seen zero news, even from the, podcast world, alternative sources. What's like the breaking dynamic this past week? And I guess we just say it's national news here in the US.
Yeah, well, the Pope being, the new Pope, American Pope, he went to Villanova, which is a St. Augustinian, uh, order. Uh, so St. Augustinian, the Jesuit. So we just had a Jesuit Pope, and now we got an Augustinian Pope. Uh, the Augustinian Pope is pretty much the same thing as a Jesuit, according to Leo Zagami. Uh, Pretty much the same thing. They're educational popes. We're seeing that he's picking up the same thing about immigration that the last pope did. As we know, President Trump, there was like these memes that were going out there where there was like orange smoke that came out,
Yeah.
and then you saw Donald Trump in a pope outfit, and then we get American Pope. How about that? Hmm. Did
Wow.
President Trump know something? Hmm.
Yeah.
So, or is there some kind of deal being done, or who knows what's going on with that? But it sounds like our president is really on top of things. I'm very, very excited about that.
Hmm.
He's supposedly a centrist pope, and on the day that he was poperized, we had an American, Supreme Court justice died, David Souter, who was basically a Republican appointed judge that was a disappointment for the conservatives.
Hmm.
He died on that day, 85 years old, and that day yesterday was 8-5. So
Wow.
we know how these guys like to play with numbers. So where's all this go? What's the stuff that's going on with that? I think we're going to find out. And I think this is basically more reveal, destruction of the old system, the destruction of the old guard. We're seeing all this. And like we're truthers and we're like ravenous. We're like pit bulls on this stuff. We're like, and that's like all over this stuff. We're like tearing it up. I love it. It's they're not going to get very far with this silliness they've been doing.
Well, it
Yeah.
sounds like we finally get hope in our soul instead of pope in our hole.
So, what are the bullet holes on this new pope? I saw a couple, but what are you guys seeing out there? What are the bullet holes with this guy?
Well, the word that I saw is that he's conservative but he was pandering to his base in regards to the illegals, which makes sense
Hmm.
because there's a huge Central and South America are heavily Catholic. So it sounds like that was more of a pander, but talk was before he made those type of statements, he's had some conservative values. So ultimately, uh, what I care about is the proof to me, the proof in the pudding is he starts going after the pedophile priests.
Yeah.
That would be the proof if you got the right guy in there finally. And as my wife says, if in the communication hall in the Vatican, they remove the satanic symbolism. That may be another sign that they're going in the right direction.
Well, that's hopeful. I did see, now that you brought that up, I did see that this guy was lax in dealing with pedophiles in the church, meaning I saw a picture yesterday. I don't even know what news source, but it did pop up. And I saw the Pope and I saw this guy he actually looked maybe Spanish. He had darker hair and he's probably in his mid 60s, another priest, or it wasn't a cardinal, but a priest that again, he made a lateral move. He got either got caught or he was accused of, and they made a lateral move, which wasn't strong enough. And that's what this particular Pope had done in the past. So once again, not just because we've seen this before, but for me, I don't care who they nominate Supreme Court. I've watched this since Reagan in the 80s. And David Souter, I believe, was an H.W. Bush appointee.
Right.
Even Susan Collins, I believe it was, or no, Olympia Snow, whichever one it was. Not Olympia Snow was a senator, but a Reagan appointee, same thing. And Collins, not Collins, she was a senator. Who was a female that Reagan appointed? It's not hitting me right now, but it's the same thing. I mean, these guys get in and they do what they do. They always go to the right. They always stick the conservatives in the back. I think if you look under the hood, you know how it is, Mike. These guys are built from the ground up for a lifetime and a career to be a certain way so they can get them in the system with the approval of people, right? The American people. And once they hit the Supreme Court, virtually probably 98% of the time, those guys end up sticking us in the back. So I mean, look at Brett Kavanaugh, look at Amy Coney Barrett. I mean, Kavanaugh's been pretty solid, but Amy Coney Barrett, total disaster, right?
Total
And
disaster.
yeah, so what have I been saying for 4 years?
I think they're Jesuit controlled. I think
You're
the
right.
Supreme Court is pretty much Jesuit controlled, with a couple exceptions. But that pretty much that's a major problem. And
Right.
we saw with the Biden administration, they gave over $100 million a year to the Catholic Church to distribute children throughout America. So we know the Catholic Church is involved in child trafficking
Mhm.
just from that alone.
Mhm.
And it's a huge red flag. And now that the border is being sealed up, they're not getting their income. So they're desperate. They have to have an open border to do their human trafficking.
Yeah.
They have to have that. And they don't have that now. So they're really going to come after President Trump. And I promise you, this Augustinian Jesuit, doesn't matter, Pope is going to come after Trump and already has, for his immigration policies.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the deep state's in a panic right now in order to acquire children. So the word is, with the work that I'm doing right now, is the CPS is rounding up kids wholesale right now, doing everything they can to get kids in the system. And we're seeing it firsthand. I mean, I'm working on a case. I can't expose the judge's name yet, but hopefully next Friday or the Friday after that or soon, there's a judge in a certain county that seems to have 1,000 different families that he's part and parcel of stealing the children from. Um, and they get paid. When I did the movie Cages, they average about $86,000 per child when you throw them into the system, right? And the money just flows all over the place. And judges are allowed to own rehabilitation and reunification centers for children.
Yeah,
And they can send those kids to those centers, and then they get paid from that.
that's
It's
right. It's black money. There's a
yeah,
black money behind the scenes that's paying
it's
these judges
madness.
Mhm.
for everything, for illegal trafficking, for P Diddy, covering for P Diddy type people, for election fraud. They get paid with black money behind the scenes,
Mhm.
and I believe we're close to having this disclosed. I think the Tina Peters is going to be a massive. The people involved, the judges involved with her, are going to get a rude awakening pretty soon.
Mike, are
The
people leaning on the Tina Peters case? I haven't spoken to her. I asked somebody if they can give me at least a phone conversation with her. I haven't had anybody that can connect me with her to talk to her. I've talked to Dr. Robert Young from prison a number of times, but I'm wondering, I mean, we know this is a travesty and I know there's good people out there fighting for her. I haven't been doing much of anything except bringing it up. So I'm hoping there are people out there with guns blazing to bring this thing down. So what do you know about that?
I will
I
tell you right now, 100%, this is being dealt with the moment we're talking. And I can't say more than that online. I can just tell you
Great,
that is being dealt with.
great.
And I can't give more than that, but it will be huge.
Well,
yeah.
we won't
And
turn it.
Juan O'Savin comes on my show tomorrow. Maybe he will disclose a little bit more. But yeah, we're kind of like in the waiting game right now. But this is going to be a huge reveal, and it'll be a domino effect, I believe, with this because we have to have this corrupt judicial system exposed and taken down. Otherwise, we can't move forward. I mean, look at what all the stuff that Trump's been trying to do with the getting illegal criminals out of our country. The judges keep getting in the way. They tried to put, they were going to put 30,000 criminal, illegal aliens in Guantanamo, and that got stopped out. So now he's talking about, what's that island in the middle of in San Francisco?
Oh yeah,
Alcatraz.
Alcatraz for judges.
Alcatraz, that's right. So
Yeah.
he's talking Alcatraz, opening Alcatraz back up. So who's going to go there? Is it going to be the illegal aliens? Probably. Is it going to be some of the criminal? San Francisco is full of criminals. You got Nancy Pelosi, and then Gavin Newsom. You got lots of people. Needs to go. They need to go to that island
They put her
and
there.
stay there.
They put her there. They need to make that bitch swim all the way out. You're not giving you a ride.
And chum the water while she's swimming.
Yes.
Exactly. I say the same thing. They need to rename.
I say this, but I say this among friends, but we know the love vibration is basically the thing that wins. We can't really hammer these people because that's the way we stoop to their level when we come at them like that. Now, the judicial system, I believe, is the way we take this thing down because we do it above board. We come at them above board from a high place and destroy their system because their system is in a swamp, like President Trump has said for a long time.
So,
Well,
Mike, is it low vibration just to cut one of her
he's on that
toes
too.
and ask her to swim across? Is that low vibration?
I'm saying to myself, I'm like, wait a second. It takes quite a love vibration to feed some sharks. Like how can
Right.
get a low vibration?
They got
Really?
sharks got to eat too.
Eat too.
Yeah, exactly.
Before they send her out there, they need to rename it Magatraz. I think that would kill her right on the spot.
Oh my God,
That's beautiful.
Magatraz.
That's a
I love
t-shirt
that.
right now. You shouldn't have said it live.
Magatraz.
Somebody's
Yeah,
already at
market that.
magatraz.com.
Which one of us are going to beat each other to the punch to get that shirt out by the weekend on our
Right.
website?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Oh, I love it.
Well, that's awesome. I did actually see Trump made, you guys probably saw that footage. I said I didn't see anything all week. I must have popped in some stuff that came up on X or something, but Trump's making that speech, bringing up Alcatraz. Did you see him with Muriel Browser, the mayor of DC, behind him when he was like laying out all the time DC? Oh, dude, I'll tell you what, you would almost, by the way she was moving around and so uncomfortable, you had to believe that there were like U.S. Marshals, like 40 of them in the back of the room waiting at the door, knowing her ass is going to be hauled away. She just could not stand still. That chick is a wreck. She knows what's coming. And he's saying it right in front of her.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it's coming, and it's like the wall of shame. They're being shamed.
mhm.
And he had Witchmer. He shamed Witchmer. He was up in Michigan at the I guess the National Guard out there saying they're going to get some new jets, and they were going to close that base down, but he's like beefing them up. And Witchmer shows up, and I was like, so that's interesting. So and of course in New York you have the mayor up there that's basically siding with MAGA. I think this is definitely turning for America. We're seeing stuff like that.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Scott, I was going to do you a favor, but sorry, magatraz.com is already taken.
I already bought it.
Oh, did you?
I'm kidding.
Oh, I was going to gift it to you, but it's already taken.
I just thought of it sitting here actually. So, well, somebody else out there has had a pretty good idea too, but they're not going to sell as many t-shirts as you guys are. I know that. So what's happening out there in the P. Diddy case? I mean, we have any real exciting information coming out about that?
Yeah, I think that that's going to be one of those great reveals. It's like the Epstein, Now I think P. Diddy, Epstein, and whatever needs to be revealed. I think JFK was a big reveal. That's done. That's been done well. And now we're moving to the next thing, which will probably be Epstein list. Those lists have been out there already. We've seen a lot of those. Even Q had a list that they put out.
Mhm.
So it's not anything new about the list, but what we want, and Lewis and I talk about this. You want a list because we've already got lists
Mhm.
and nothing's happened. What we really want are arrests, and we want these people to be arrested. So we're moving in that direction. So list, whatever. We need arrest. So you get these names out there. Not everybody that went to the island is bad. They had an area on the island where people were just having a good time, and then you of course had an area of the island where people were doing very evil things. And then they tried to coax some of those people that were just out there for a good time. They're like, no, I think I just catch the next plane back. It seems kind of look creepy here, so I'm out. So you have innocent people like that were going out there, were trying to get. They thought they were going out to just have a party with the cool guys. They were trying to be entrapped, and now their names are on lists, and that kind of sucks for them. The P Diddy is the same thing. You have a lot of the music industry, Hollywood, and of course political types that are on those lists that went to those parties. How far they went remains to be seen, and I think that's some of the things that we're going to have come out in this trial. So it's part of the judicial process. Now he's being tried in a very, like I think Louis, you said this when we did a show a couple of days ago. He's in the Southern District of New
New
York,
York.
and that is a very corrupt
Yeah.
district. So we may not see some results out of this. We have to
Yeah.
be aware that this is part of their plan.
Yeah, the challenge with the SDNY, that's where cases go to die traditionally, or they go after Trump. That's the two things that they do. They go after the Trump administration, and cases go to die there. Um, what's interesting is the parallels between all these. As you guys know, I did a series on Green Acres and Ron Burkle, right? Who, by the way, is the financier of P. Diddy. It's Ron Burkle is the godfather of P. Diddy's children, and but this guy's name is never set up. And I happened to travel through the Ron Burkle mansion and the tunnels below. So, but Ron Burkle to me would be the Robert Maxwell slash Les Wexner of the Green Acres mansion, and probably funding P. Diddy. But Mike, you nailed it. The way this stuff works, which is, and this is where we have to sometimes take that tinfoil hat off for a second and just think pragmatically on the way things work. So there's a recruiting process and there's a corruption process. So if you're on the A list of Hollywood, you've either been compromised or you took the deal, one or the other. That's your, and there's really no two ways about it unless you've completely dissolved yourself from Hollywood, which some people that we know have. The Mel Gibsons, the Jim Caviezel's, and so on and so forth. But even Mel, and I've seen him and in person. By the way, he comes up to here. Um,
Really?
I've seen Mel in
That
person,
short?
and I still wonder him and Mark Wahlberg. I go, but you're Jesuits, so do they know or do they not know? Those are questions we need to ask. But back to what we were talking about. They'll go into a Diddy mansion and they'll be the party. And then they'll try to see if they can grab somebody over to this section, and then there's a whole another part going on in another section, and not always at the same time. And they'll compromise them. Some they'll drug, and they'll bring them there. Same thing would happen, I suspect, at the Burkle. It definitely happened at the Playboy Mansion. I have firsthand accounts from
Mhm.
that. There's two parts. There's a part that everybody can enjoy, and then there's a part where they bring them in and they do stuff, and everything's completely recorded. I actually went with my research, found an opening above the grotto at Playboy where they peek down below. So then he's an asset, by the way. Hefner was a CIA agent,
Mhm.
and I believe I even made the link directly to adrenochrome. So um,
Hmm.
this stuff's crazy, but I think you nailed it, Mike, when you said there's a part of the island that they can go to and just yuck it up, and then they'll try to pull off of the ones that they want. Hey, We have this sick stuff going over here. Let's get over here. And some of them find out they should say something, then they don't. They just take off. And some, honestly, some have probably even went to the island. And I know conspiracy theorists don't want to hear this. And they did nothing. They probably just partied on the beach and da da da. And they were taken. What we do know is Epstein would offer his jet to anybody of influence, because that's how they lure you in and then try to get you in a compromised position.
Yeah.
And that's what they did with Trump. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, if there isn't a satisfactory response or actions taken from this trial, I don't, you're not going to hold this narrative together. The people are just going to finally go crazy. Look, we waited a couple years for Epstein. I mean, when was that when we knew about Epstein before the world did? That was probably like 2019, maybe roughly, when we learned about who Epstein was. And then that day that he landed in Teterboro, they picked him up. All of us who knew were dancing in the streets. Nobody else in the world knew who it was. And look where, I mean, the things that mystify me are this. First of all, was he in Rikers Island? I forget where he was. Um, I can't remember, but anyways, the simple fact that this guy would be in a position to either be murdered or kill himself makes no sense. Look at Virginia Jeffrey down in Australia. Like, give me an effing break here. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Doesn't add up.
Doesn't pass the smell test. 1 second. You people should be protecting these who could bring this thing down, yet they're quote unquote committing. Who commits suicide in a hospital? Right? Seriously. Ever, like in a hospital. That shit makes no sense to me. So I still look at all this with a raised eyebrow. We have expectations, but I can tell you, I did pull back the reins about a month and a half ago because I instantly was getting pissed because here comes the Epstein files and we've got it all. It's on a desk. It's retracted to the max. I'm like, the same bullshit. And there might have been good reason for that. Pam Bondi was just recently talking to somebody in public, a stranger, who asked her, when's the Epstein list coming out? She says, well, whatever she said, there's tens of thousands of videotapes to go through that all have kids on them. She doesn't tell the whole world that, but she tells, and they caught it. They caught it on recording. And the fact that that stuff hasn't happened yet, I understand that this dragnet can be so massive. I
Yeah.
totally can acquiesce to that because this whole global machine is deeply rooted in every single prevalent institution of power or control, as we know, from school systems clear to the top of heads of states, own backyards or homes, whatever. We're talking millions of people. I mean, somebody just told me the other day, there's the total amount of pedophiles in the United States is 10 million. 10 million. And we know on the planet there's roughly 3 million people whose heads need to come off. And the main tier of these people that are leading this satanic realm on the planet, that's a lot of people. I mean, these are the worst that if you take them all out, then we're replanting seeds in Eden here. So I'm willing to give this some time, but at the same time, they have one other ingredient here, one other variable that I know they're considering. They have to, the people's response, because if the people ever start moving against you, even if it was misjudgment or misunderstanding among the population, it doesn't matter. That's the whole political side. You look at geopolitics when nations become afraid that their governments may be overthrown. When the people start moving against you, it never comes back because people start fueling it, whether it's just sensationalism or true passion. They can't have that happen. So I'm sure they're managing that, knowing psychologically that very well, and likely will give us things that clearly indicate that they're making progress. So it's hard. I mean, I want to wring my tongue out some days, but I just pull back and think, look, I wouldn't want the job. I would not want the job.
Right. Well, the challenge though, Scott, is they set themselves up, and I've been saying for a while, I have extraordinary patience on this because I want it done correctly. I want it done correctly. So I don't need a list. Mike and I talked about this. I don't need a list. List isn't important to me. What we need is comprehensive arrests that go all the way to the top. As far as they go, we need that to be done. So I have patience. Even if it takes a year or 2 years, I have patience. Where I think they went wrong, the Trump administration, is on messaging. And I think that was the big mistake. Why ever promise it? Just say, hey, it's a behemoth. We're going to work on it. It's going to take a while, guys. That's all they needed to say. But it was, hey, it's going to come out now. It's going to come out next week. We're going to show you this. We're going to be completely transparent on this. And then it's a complete nothing burger. So I think messaging is what's got them in trouble. But back to another point you made, and I think this is very important to know, is about the people rising up. I think Trump is giving us signals to be prepared, though. Within the last couple of months, he's done a lot of messaging, and I'll just point out two. One is he spoke about the revolution and how important that was. If you remember, the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution, huge. But the one big one I see is on March 20th from WhiteHouse.gov and on X. He put it over on X. I'm sorry, he put it on Truth Social. It was about us forming a militia. Have you ever heard a government bring up that part of the Constitution and talk about the importance of forming a militia? I never have.
Wow.
So I thought that was, I just got the God bumps right there because I remember reading this and I screen grabbed it in case it went away. And I was like, wow. And that this is directly from the White House. This is not somebody that made up a meme. I double checked it myself. So when the White House is talking about the importance of we the people forming a well-regulated militia, I think they know that this is a battle to come, and we just have to be prepared at minimum.
Yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't kicked off yet. I thought April and May would be, we'd be kicking some butt, but I think it's good that we haven't been. So that means that, in my opinion, that things are being handled on a low key level. So I think a lot of the arrests are happening for a lot of these gang members that were prepped to be part of, causing problems. We've seen Antifa come back out again. So and then we just recently saw, I think it was Columbia University, where they came out and they're protesting for Palestinian, peace or something again, and from the sea to the river, and it's like they finally started arresting those students that were causing this. So that was a huge move. So we're seeing these huge moves now. A lot of these people, and I think Virginia Giuffre, we'll go back to her. I think a lot of people. I don't know if this is, I'm absolutely right on this, but I think that she may have been wedded to someone that was part of like a honeypot thing, where they come in and they give a lot of these people partners that are their handlers, and they don't realize that. If you look deeper into that a lot of people have been disclosing that he's a bad man, very bad.
Wow.
And he was after her money. So I think a lot of these guys and gals that come in to do the honeypot stuff and wed some of these people and be a handler for them, and whether they're aware of it or not, they're handling them. They're pushing them certain directions, and they make money, and it's make money just mysteriously. But eventually that person that's controlling them is going to get that money. And the deep state is basically giving them all this money, and they're acquiring all this money. And that's going to be the payoff for this person, basically to, push them in a certain direction. And eventually they're taken out of the picture, I think like she was. So we're seeing a lot of that happen. Because you see people that are dying all over the place. It's really, really crazy right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think that we're winning, but she gets taken out. So that's a big sign for everybody. And we see Tina Peters get arrested. She's in prison. So there's a lot of stuff they're pushing right now. I'm happy that Tina Peters is still alive. Hopefully, we think that we're winning, but she gets taken out. So that's a big sign for everybody. And we see Tina Peters get arrested. She's in prison. So there's a lot of stuff they're pushing right now. I'm happy that Tina Peters is still alive. Hopefully they don't get to her, but we got to know that they are in desperate straits right now. Mm-hmm. And where does this pushback from us happen? Or will we need to push back? Who knows at this point? I thought that like I said, that we were going to be doing this already. Will it not happen? I hope not. That'd be great. Maybe we're pushing to a point where it's not going to. But I think there's a lot of things that are coming, like a collapse in the economy and all kind of crazy stuff. Because the stock market, everyone thinks, the stock market's going up everything's hunky dory. But we're seeing, massive inventories in housing. We're seeing a lot of different things. Jobs are about ready to go down, not up. And we just saw the GDP go down. We get another GDP that goes down. We're in a recession. I think we're already in a recession. So this is going to be very, very. It's like we're in the fourth turning. There's a book that came out that was called Humanity. And we're moving in that direction, I believe, where there's going to be a massive shift in the way we do business, the way catastrophic things are coming, but that's because it has to happen that way. I think we've all talked about this.
Yeah, there's no soft landing here in the transition. There won't be, there can't be. And I think that's why, as Juan told us year ago, roughly, maybe a little more, a little less, that these things are going to happen. The economic collapse, I've kind of misjudged it for 2 years. The quote unquote military trained 500,000 of these military trained people in this country, males that are sitting on the sidelines waiting for an activation to start doing their damage simultaneously across the country, 200 towns and cities. I haven't, because it hasn't happened, I haven't said, well, that was wrong. Nobody says when it will happen, but we got to know they're locked and loaded for all of that, because it's going to be their Hail Mary. I still think, as good as it seems right now, people still mentally have to be prepared. We've leaned pretty hard on tactical civics now for, I guess it's probably about 2 years, and we turned it into something that has real teeth and real legs to it. And we continue to expand those numbers. And as I said before, obviously bringing back the constitutional county grand jury, where we, the people, convene our grand juries in our areas and counties, and we handle the justice side outside of the corporate courts who are masquerading as a court to corporations and all the shit we see. When the people handle their own business, this thing's going to get cleaned up. That's why the founders made it that way. But more importantly, for fueling this movement was for one reason: the duty, the requirement by the Constitution, the requirement for each constitutional county grand jury to certify a standing militia, period. That's why I've leaned so hard on it, because guess what? We don't return to a republic. It ain't going to happen until, number one, we show competence. The military is not going to do anything and say, okay, people, here you go. We got to show competence, number one, that we understand. And number two, there's got to be preparation. If people understand that the certified standing militia, which everybody runs away from the word, everybody I know runs away from the word militia. I'm never backing down. They're going to come and arrest you. You're going to do it anyways for some other reason. We're going to stay to the truth to the wording of the Constitution, period. If we do anything in terms of backing up 1 millimeter, once they see they fractured you with fear because you went like this or flinched, they know they got you. Then they come on 10 times stronger because this person's movable. When they see you're immovable, you just keep going, fork you, scumbags. They're like, we're going to shoot the guy or something, because he ain't going backwards, right? Now, if it's a couple of us, we're easy targets. If thousands, tens of millions say, we're not backing up, we are going to do what the Constitution requires in our counties and get them set up. I want them set up so if the shit hits a fan, Mike, you know how it is. I mean, I have veterans, Navy guys, 2, 3 decades. I'm here because I want to be part of the certified standing militia. When I see that, I'm like, great. I'm glad that's why you're here, because we need military minded veterans who know how to handle their shit, like especially combat guys who have the experience and they know when that temperature rises under combat, you're not going to freak out. You're not know what to do. You're systematized. You're ready to go. We need those guys in all neighborhoods talking to each other. Before we haven't got on tactical civics, my nephew, this is 5 years ago. He's got guys in multiple counties that they're all connected together, and he did it on his own. He's about 30, probably 33, 34. They all are ready on protecting their own communities in their counties. They've been working on that by themselves. I found it out like a year or two ago. But the point is if they start this chaos, fear causes everybody to retreat and stand there and take whatever's coming. But if you talk to your neighbor, you know, tactical civics allows you to know that guy's military, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, whatever. Everybody knows who each other is. If it starts, they can quickly get together. Hey, let's come up with a game plan. Our communities have to do that if we're ever going to be an independent republic again in each and every state. There's no other way around it.
Yeah, well, it all comes down to we the people. That's why literally but we the people are the plan,
Yeah.
because we are the plan. We've been convinced otherwise. Well, and Scott, I'm sure you would agree with this, and Mike, we've been MK Ultra to flinch when the word militia comes up, right? Because then that's done intentionally, right? Oh, well, they demonize militias. They're so bad, and no, they take over, and that's anarchist, and it's the farthest thing from the truth. A well-regulated militia, the regulated also means that you have patience, you know when to go, when not to go, you're organized, you're patriots. It's so regulated has a wonderful meaning to it, but it's been, flipped on its head for us, and they just put militia, and that's the BS that we're going to have to get away from for sure. I'm wholeheartedly behind you on that, because militia is a wonderful thing. Yeah, militia is not a bad, it's an absolute wonderful thing, because it prevents our government from doing what our government has done to this point. If we had well-regulated militias in the last 100 years, we actually wouldn't even be on this podcast right now. We would probably be, I'd be snorkeling. I don't know what you guys, I think Mike would probably be diving, and I don't know what you would do, Scott, but we would definitely not be on this podcast right now, because it never would have got to this point. And I love that you, and I know Mike has talked about this a little bit before, are so focused on this. And I am thrilled that on March 20th, President Trump mentioned it, because to have a political government figure talk about how important it is to have a well-regulated militia, that is fucking huge.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah, and I know a lot of people think that, the military and militia get involved and everything's going to be perfect. I've not seen that. And when I was in Iraq and Afghanistan, you get the regular military involved, and so as a former special forces guy, doing security and so forth, we feared the military more than we feared the terrorist, because they were so trigger happy. And they created a lot of fear in the public. So we don't want them to get involved if we can help it. So I know, Scott, it's not so much about we're going to like form militaries. It's that we're going to get active in civics. That is the thing that makes the difference. That is the thing. So we, the people, involve all the people. Mm-hmm. So that's what pretty much happened in the Revolutionary War. You had the strongest standing army in the world, the most feared standing army in the world, and then you had militias, and then you had a regular army. So the regular army would go toe to toe, unfortunately, with the British regulars. Mm-hmm. The militia would run after first round, and the regular military was so disgusted, and if they could get them to stay for if they could get them to shoot for like 2 rounds, they would usually win a battle. So it's not always, the militia is not always going to be the thing. So we ultimately are going to do this civics thing. The judicial side, exposed, destroyed, and then because that's the cover. That's the cover for the deep state. And once you take that cover away, then we come at them and we just destroy their whole system. That's the only thing. It'll be like once, maybe Tina Peters, maybe once that judicial system, because I'm sure they have like their fingers in the dike, and once those fingers get yanked out, and those people that are putting those fingers in there, and that burst is going to flood the entire country. I hope, because we don't want militias to get involved. Although I believe there is a strong possibility that they will, unfortunately, and the military. The military is very, very, very small compared to all of the people in the United States. Mm-hmm. It could be militiaized. You have farmers, you have hunters and all that kind of stuff. Could be as more as or more effective than prior military, to tell you the truth.
Well, I've said that about hunters for years. Hunters are some of the most patient people in the world. I have two marksmen sons in my family, and I know the hunters would have outpatient them in a battle. They won't stick their head up as soon as my kids will. That being said, yeah, I think we don't want to, just because militia are armed doesn't mean they're using their arms, right? But the fact that they are armed is the key. But we the people are the key. And I want to say this: if there were 20 Tina Peters that stood up at the same time during the elections, there wouldn't be one in jail today.
Bingo. You said it. And to clarify for those people that don't understand, the purpose of the militia was never to go to war and fight. The purpose of the militia is to serve as the local law enforcement arm of the counties. There were no corporate courts.
That's
There
right.
was no architecture in the United States for any of this in 1790, right? So this is what they put on paper in agreement. The people, you're going to have to handle your shit yourself. This is how you do it. If something comes up, there is some type of ingression into somebody's life, some negligence or an outright criminal act, then you folks have got to get together and form a grand jury and hear the case and decide whether this, based on what we see, merits potential charges. If it does, then you have a, now today it would look different than back then because you can easily get a patch made, but you have a certified, that's the key word, a certified standing militia. We're not talking about the three percenters climbing through the woods up in Yellowstone trying to kill John and Beth Dutton. We're talking about, you know, legitimate people, khaki pants, probably loafers, patch, sidearm. We're here to serve, on a warrant or, hand you indictment papers, make an arrest, bring them to the grand jury, let them hear it out. Okay, so now you've been convicted, sentenced by the grand jury. The judge in this structure, the judge has zero say or power. The jury tells the judge how to do the job. They flipped it around so the judge can be king and say, here's what you're going to do. You're going to jail for this amount of time. They just flipped the script. So that's why I never pulled back when everybody would say, I mean, I literally had Patrick Byrne on one time brought it up. He loved the idea of tactical civics until I said militia. He freaked out. I think another person said, Scott, just use the term peace officers. I'm like, really? How long do you think that term lasts before they vilify that and make it the same? Cut the bullshit. You got it. If you want the Constitution restored, you take it right down to the comma and the period and the ink on the paper, because nothing else in this world has worked. Nothing. They've taken that Constitution in other countries, tried to make it work like it did ours. Doesn't ever. Why? Because this nation was born with the energetic frequency of that document that is permeated generation after generation. It's a different mindset. It's a different vibration. You're not going to capture that vibration because we had to do it in a space and time that was very precarious, and people had to make decisions that could lead, obviously, like our founders, to their deaths, their families, their wealth wiped out, their entire ships burned, like Sam Adams, plantations ruined. These people died penniless and broke. That decision to say our lives, our fortunes, our sacred honor, that comes from such an angelically high frequency. That's the only reason that this thing worked. And you can't inject that somewhere. We are born into it. Our spiritual DNA is based on that document. Therefore, I don't want to change a comma or a period. Show me anything else in the world that has ever worked like that. Nothing, nothing until they stole it. So I personally think will overcome, their vilification of words like they do to make us afraid. Man, we just have to stop being afraid. You guys, both of you, and I should be dead by now. We should be dead. What does that mean? And I said, people in my audience, look, I know I call these guys forking scumbags, go fork yourself, call them every name in the book, right? And they're like, man, you have so much courage and you're so brave and such a badass. I'm like, well, because I'm a full disclosure guy, the reality is I'm not. I just know these assholes are in a death spiral right now trying to survive it. So I'm punching them on the way down, rabbit punch, right? I'm rabbit punching them. That's
Oh
what,
yeah.
and stand up. Because if they were strong, we would never get here today. We would be dead, all the three of us and a lot of other people, podcasters. What does this tell you? We got them on the ropes, badly on the ropes. They're ready to get down, and we have got to keep our foot on the gas, on the game plan in that ring, and go for the total knockout. If we let them breathe, they're going to come back. If we give them any latitude, we're going to be fighting a long, long battle among we the people.
So, Scott, you mentioned the American spirit and how amazing it is, and it's definitely different. So, I want to ask Mike a question, even though it's your show, because it goes into this. Mike, in warfare, have you found that other than training, because we know that's different, that the American soldiers have more spirit and more courage than our counterparts?
Beyond compare. There's
Yeah.
nowhere I've been. The only other place that I've seen was the Aussie Special Forces, the SAS. Those guys are very comparable. They have the same spirit, but they're a very small group of
Mhm.
people. But yeah, there's everywhere we've ever been, people look up to us as the leaders because we just have that drive and that determination and that expertise that everyone looks for. So yeah, the American military man is the greatest in the world by far. And
And a lot of that has to do with spirit, not just training, like Scott says, right?
it's because America is great. America
Exactly.
in and of itself is great, and that's what makes the American military man great. It's not because there's great training per se in the military. There is, of course, but it's because of the American America. So America is
America.
very, very powerful and very, very prestigious throughout the world. You go anywhere in the world, and everybody wants to come to America. They love America. They would just about everyone, except some Europeans, want to come to America, and if they could get uh, you know citizenship in America, they would absolutely love it. So yeah, they're undisputed, undisputed, no question whatsoever.
Well, I can see why. Look how many soldiers are being exported worldwide to try to save other people's nations, peoples from the slaughterhouses they live in. I mean, it's always American soldiers being sent over there. And to know that that's what you're being used for, it's not defending the homeland right here where it's needed in most cases, if any at all, ever. A soldier, a sailor, Air Force, Marine, whatever, they are signing a document knowing full well we're going to be shipped overseas to fight for freedom for some other country. Think about that.
Yeah.
That's astonishing to me in and of itself. And to me, there would be no greater. I mean, I had my attempt. I thought I had my ride with Navy or Marine Aviation. I thought it was a done deal. It was a done deal, and they cut those budgets. But that's what was in my soul, and just to be part of that community more. And when that didn't happen for me, um, I thought, maybe I just go anyways. But I thought with how this worked out, a sure thing turned out to be this. And I thought I'll get stuck on a carrier and I'll be watching flight ops. And I literally want to jump over the side because I knew the only thing that could pull me away from competitive bodybuilding when I was ready to turn the corner, one thing on earth, and it was that. And I made that decision one day sitting on a park bench outside of Golds and Venice, told my buddies, they're like, you're out of your effing mind. 3 days later, I'm on a plane. 8 months later, I went from after I went into the offices, Navy Marines, I come back in 8 months. I went from 265 to 205 because I said I'm going to do a little work, come back, take my exams. They're like, holy shit, this kid's serious. For me, even just being part of the process was such an amazing honor. But the heartbreak for me wasn't just that. I'm glad I didn't. There was a reason why that wasn't allowed to happen for me, Mike, because the suffering some of you guys have for what they did, decisions they forced on you. But for me, it was never getting to experience that community among a special group of people on the planet that said, I will go overseas and protect other people with my life and leave my family and kids behind to do it. Show me anywhere else on the planet where you'll find that type of spirit that exists in broadly in any country. There really isn't any. Defensively, Russia, places like that, no question about it. Look at the beating they took and it took an annihilation in World War II. That's different. That's the homeland. Overseas, that's where we always go. So it's a special, special thing that I agree, Mike. I can't imagine how it can exist anywhere else in the world.
Mm.
Yeah. Russia, I would say Russia is a close, very close, if not identical. So it's their people are very focused as well. You can see that, World War, World War II. The Nazis basically flung themselves at the Russians and were annihilated. And now the Nazis are basically being annihilated again in Ukraine. That's a good thing for the rest of us because the more Nazis that are annihilated, the better for the world, really. But we can't keep doing this. I think most of the PTSD right now is because people are waking up, like you said, to the fact that they have been used by this this globalist, these globalist monsters. And once guys find that out, it's not good. So a lot of the suicides that are happening are really from that. They're keeping that hidden, but a lot of us know that's what it's from. So I think we're going to stop that. Like right now, they tried to push the Ukraine thing. Everybody's like, no. Try to push the Taiwan thing. So everybody's like, no. We're on to you guys. 5 years ago, I was in my kayak in Lake Tahoe. There was no one on the lake. Everybody was locked down in California. So we got fooled. We were led to believe that there was something COVID-19 that was going to kill all of us if we didn't lock down. And so that was a big lie. We know that now, and we knew that all of us knew that very quickly. And we started trying to tell everybody. So I'm in my kayak. I'm like taking pictures. I'm sending it out. I went to this waterfall. I camped out by this waterfall, and I just kept sending all these videos and pictures out. And then I started seeing other people do the same thing. They pushed back on the lie. You can't go outside, and people are like, "F that." Mike did, so I'm going out too. Nothing happened to him. So everything was locked down. You weren't supposed to be in the wilderness. I was. I don't know how I got away with it, but I did. There was a boat that was trailing me. I was like, they're probably going to pick me up and take me to jail, but they didn't. And so I just started videoing 5 years ago. So we can never let that happen again, and we have to push back on that. And I think everybody's of that same opinion now that we got had and we can't do this again. Who did it? It's the globalists, the deep state. We know who they are. We know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need lists. We know who they are. We need to see them be held accountable.
Yeah, I believe the two greatest things that happened in our battle was COVID and the internet. The two things that they tried to use against us both backfired on them tremendously. And this is ultimately how we, the people, are going to win this war.
Yeah. Yeah, they misread the temperature of America, at least maybe not in a broad sense, but at least in a sense there was a very large handful of people that sniffed it out and said, yeah, not only am I not going to comply, I'm going to turn the camera on. I'm going to start telling the people, like, are you out of your mind? These people are killers. This is all a lie. And again, we were crazies, took a beating from some, but they weren't prepared. I mean, look, when you have the stark reality for me, and a very heartwarming one was I couldn't believe they allowed the election, that they unrigged it or stopped the theft in 2024. I was sitting here 8:20 Eastern doing a quick segment on somebody's show analyzing it, and I'm saying, I'm like, with authority, like, look, folks, none of this matters. Um, we can analyze. I've been doing this for 30 years, analyzing every election, having the same dialogue, but none of it matters anymore. They stole 2020 in front of your face, a bunch in 22. They're going to steal it tonight. So why are we talking about this? I get downstairs, 2 hours later, it's like, oh my God, they're calling Trump the winner. I'm like, what? What's going on here? But it was so cool. That was the coolest thing to see. This was actually evolving this time, that they stopped the steal. But when Fox News said, you know, we completely overlooked the podcast community, that's the reason Trump was reelected. I'm like, no shit. You said it. 100% right. But that's what it led to. That's why, we're always, folks, trying to push back on you. First of all, you get to discover your true power that you never knew you had. Once you set that in motion, because you have a little bit of courage, I always say, man, once you start moving against these forces, the universe starts lining people up, circumstances, energy. It gets in line with you and marches with you. And once you discover that and you have more courage and faith and you take a role, you start to realize, man, I didn't know I could do this. I didn't know this is how I was or who I was, right? People are like, I can't believe you're doing that. Me either. Like, holy shit. That's what I'm always trying to get people to do. Once they take that step and you realize, oh my God, I didn't know I could do this, and get that to spread like wildfire, God dang, it's game over overnight. Overnight, because they can see it better than we can. When they see like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, they're like, oh shit, they really think that they're
Mhm.
badass. And yep, we're in trouble. Exactly. Because it just spreads like wildfire.
Well, we're in an actual war. I don't know. I wish more people, they call them normies, would realize that. So what I believe happened is there was a time where the deep state recognized that there was no way they can steal the federal election for President Trump.
Mhm.
So then what they did is, because we are in a war, they recalibrated their efforts to all the down ballots.
Yeah.
And in many cases, they did a phenomenal job at stealing elections on the down ballots, right?
Mhm.
What we're hoping for is that the Trump administration can do enough work and, in my opinion, motivate enough of we, the people, to now start regulating and holding accountable the locals. And that's why I always say the micro will fix the macro. And it really, really will. So, what you do in regards to tactical civics and a couple organizations that I work with are extraordinarily important, because the deep state now has a harder job if they're going to have a stronghold, because they can't just focus on one election. They need to focus on multiple. And when they thin them out like that, they also thin their resources out. So when we really, really get involved within our local communities, it's game over.
Mhm.
So hopefully, and I believe this is the way Trump and the administration is going to go, is hopefully they just keep motivating us to activate, to activate, to activate. And the more that we activate and get involved, I really think that when this history is written 50 years from now, Trump and his administration will be an icon, but the real story will be about the individuals that stood up within their communities and said, I'm not going to take it anymore. And the reality is Scott, you, Michael, myself, and all the other podcasters, you know who we were fighting for? We're fighting for all the people that talk shit about us. That's who we're really fighting for.
Yeah. Yeah. And what the toughest thing out here for all of us is we got to get up every day and fight the same people we're fighting for, which just it mystifies me that
Yep.
we have to endure that. But in the past, I've mentioned, look, folks, to take the country over, take it back from them, you have no idea how fast it can happen. It just takes a core group of people in each county, just your county, just clean your county up. Stop accepting the corruption and the theft of these local
Mhm.
officials. And I'm telling you, when you start highlighting it, get it to other podcasters in your state. We start smoking out PennDOT. We're not done there, but we've caused some actions to happen at PennDOT from scumbags just stealing like 100 tons of road millings and shipping them to somebody else, a guy named Damon Wagner, shipping them to somebody else's house on a quid pro quo deal or a favor. That's taxpayer money, right? And I've just been raining a shitstorm down that for over a year. And we've had them having meetings. Some of them are on the run. They're putting them on local TV to say shit. I'm like, go ahead and put them on local TV. Try to rehab that. If I see it, you just ramp me up again. Here I come. And I do that not because I want people from my local community where I grew up to hate my guts, which they do, right? I don't want to be disliked by anybody. I've been like that my whole life. But right now, I don't give a shit. That's what's destroyed the country. Locally, we've allowed these crooks to get away with this. And to stop it, you'd get it in one county, you get it right. Clean county, because nobody can get past the dragnet. That's why a grand jury is critical. Everybody's being vetted here. If they are not of good character and the people won't put up with it, they're not going to a state legislature. They can't get through the election in their county. And they're not in the same surrounding districts. They're sure as hell not getting through the dragnet to get to Washington, D.C. Why? Because if you're identified as an unworthy candidate or a crook here, you're not going anywhere. And like you said, Lewis, it's right here locally. You
Mhm.
know everybody in your community, or a lot of people do, work together. And this is one last thing I'll say, perspective, turn it back to you guys. I want to give some perspective of what this can look like or what it will look like. Let's say right now, We are headed into July 15's right around the corner, 2025. Imagine this. There was a day 10 years ago, guy come down an escalator. We all have our story when we saw it. Looked over. What's that? Comes down. Starts talking. And then he said this thing that I've referred to 1,000 times since then. I watched a proverbial Moses part the Red Sea. They're fake news. I was like, holy shit, he said it. What?
This fake news was indeed fake news.
I love that. Hit it again, please.
We don't want fake news.
So think about this. I knew right then, I have one of those in my bus. I said right then and there, Holy Mary, Mother of God, there he is, right there. I didn't see him coming. I said, there's no Reagan on the horizon. Now, then when he started into it, and we learned about our back channel military intelligence operation, tell me both you guys, we all thought this was going to be wrapped up in 3-4 years, 2020. It's not.
Guilty.
Here we are 10 years ago, guys. It's 10 years since that moment, right? Now, the reason I say that is, folks, the reason I'm saying it, that was 10 years ago. Now, do you want to say that 10 years from now? Because if you don't,
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
tacticalcivics.com, I don't care what it is, get together in your local community, put an end to this corruption and bullshit and end it. The other guys will be taken care of at a higher level, but locally, we can clean house. And you know what happens? One county, boom, clean as a slate, good leadership. People aren't putting on the bullshit, clean everybody out of there. What does a neighbor, Clearfield County, Pennsylvania, what's Center County going to do? They're going to hear like, holy shit, man, they kicked ass. Look what's happening. They're getting all, I'm doing it over here. And then what happens? Boom. And then it just becomes popcorn. That's why I say we can have this country back in 2 years flat, or we can say this, Mike and I don't want to see Lewis and Mike in 10 years on a freaking camera. I want to be somewhere on a beach or somewhere hunting, or I don't know, on Mike's luxury yacht, whatever. I don't want to be doing this. So we got to get local people doing something.
Yep, for sure.
And we saw that with the last election. I was looking at that, I was remote viewing it, and I was like, I don't see it yet. Then 3 weeks out, I'm like, he's going to win it. But everyone has to get out and start voting right now. That's what came to me. So I started putting that out. I remember going to vote like 2 weeks before the actual election day in Florida, and it was packed at the polling place. You would not have been able to get all those people in there on day of. So they keep saying day of, with your ID. I don't see it. It's just so many. If you're going to restrict a lot of people from voting, so it's good. I think that we had the early voting in Florida and a lot of other places. Where did Trump lose? Where they had no ID. Everywhere that Trump lost was no ID needed, and we know what that's all the blue states, right? So we have to go into those blue states right now. In Colorado, the Colorado legislation is passing a bill where if a child says they no longer want to be Peter, want to be Betty, and the parents say no, you can't do that, they can take that child away. Yep. They're trying to pass a bill for that. They're not disclosing that they're also going to allow like chins to be, medically changed, and jaw lines, and breast implants or taking away breast and all that kind of stuff. They're going to allow that for children, and then the Democrat president or governor is going to like sign it off probably. So there's the Republicans are like in uproar, but there's not enough Republicans. And the Republicans are like, the people, if you put this to a vote to the people of Colorado, you would have an overwhelming response of no. Yet you have a small group of people that somehow found their way into power because there's no voter ID in Colorado. And they are now going to pass something that is abhorrent to not just Coloradans, but also the rest of the country mostly. So we have to like push back on this. We, the people. So the people of Colorado have to get involved here. Do they really want this to happen? It's up to them. It's up to them.
Yeah, but
Tactical civic.
we can't forget though that the elections are fraudulent, and that's exactly why they're able to do what they can do.
It's
Great
true.
example, Sheriff Bianco of Riverside County, California, just came out and reported that a bill was signed in Congress of California where if you shoot an intruder in your house, you are held liable for murder.
Can you imagine that?
Just happened. And so the sheriff's coming
That's
out saying this is
insane.
ridiculous. So we're in, and
Yeah.
and I can tell you, living in California, we do not have a free and fair election. During the recall election of Gavin Newsom, we had all the people come out. In fact, my wife and I did a private polling,
Yeah.
which we're not supposed to do, but I don't care. And it was 26 out of 26 people said Gavin Newsom will be axed. We're axing him. Yet he won 67% of the vote, right? Doesn't we're going to have to figure out how to detail this in a way, and there's something I'll go over with you offline where I believe the solution is there. The only reason why I'm not saying it online now because it needs to be honed in a little bit, and I don't want to lead people in the wrong direction.
Well, it's all going to come to
Excellent.
that. You said earlier, Lewis, it's going to come down to one thing, we the people. We've been saying it for years, the three of us and others. Nothing happens without people. That's why the Constitution was written the way it was.
Yes.
All the power put in the hands of the people. Now it's on you. You want freedom? Takes responsibility. It takes time. Now I get it. They've strung out every family, the tax code, build a culture where you drop kids off, somebody else raise them. You go to work for what? All your money's going virtually to paying gas and food and babysitters' fees for a complete wash. I mean, they did a great job. And, I'm not just making judgments on people who literally are just trying to catch their breath,
Right. That's
getting
right.
involved in something else. I totally get it. But again, I know that's tough, but you got to remember, you're not asked to be walking through the snow with rags on your feet that are bloody in the middle of the wintertime, following others on horseback and half starving. That's what it took to get us here. Not asking for that, losing a little sleep and being a little uncomfortable, not comfortable talking to people or whatever. That's far less cry than what those guys did to give us this country. And they were rich. Those leaders were already rich. They had nobility, they had lifestyle, they had everything. Look at their lifestyles. And we got to keep remember they gave it up. Sam Adams' entire merchant fleet was burned in his harbors. Washington, other plantation owners, these guys were on the run for years for one thing, not wealth, not nobility, not titles, not privilege, not ass kissing. I want freedom, period. We call the shots. How can we say no? How can we let them down? That's one thing I can't live with in my life, letting them down and letting down our soldiers. I got a guy, I hesitate to mention his name, but he's my head of security, special human being, force recon, big bald Marine, total effing badass, MMA fighter. He's got a bachelor's MBA, ran security teams in Iraq, triple canopy and all those companies. Bad dude. And I suffer with him. I've hugged him. I've watched him in tears in front of me. And this is you look at him like, I ain't never effed from that dude. He's Mike Jaco with like 6 more inches of height. He's bigger, way bigger than me. But I see the pain in him. I talk him through it at times. And the only thing that matters to him, integrity, truthfulness, honor, like being what we live for. That's what we live for. That's what he lives for. He wants to get out of the country. He spends time overseas, in Asia places. He's sick and tired of all of this. But what he has to, because we were on our way back along the bus one day or first tour, and we were going back to the trailer. We're going to offload my bike so I can get on the road, and I had a driver so I could be on the road. And I never met him yet. We had guys rotating in and out. Came in, saw him, pretty impressive guy. Like I was told, said, you're gonna love this guy. Walking back along the bus, and I just remember looking at him. And I just said, I put my hand on his shoulder. I said, big man, you look like you're carrying a lot of weight on your shoulders. What's up? And he just instantly just like dropped his head like this. He goes, yeah, just PTSD, like real humble and sheepishly. And I stopped and I said, what, Tell me about it. What happened? And then, of course, one of the things I remember was he just said, "Yeah, just you watch your buddies, friends burning to death right in front of you from an IED or whatever." And as soon as he said that, man, I freaking fractured. And I listened for a minute, and I just said, "Look, man," I said, "I'm going to tell you." You guys are mission minded, mission oriented, and you need a mission. This is a mission. I said, you're going to see as we go around the country, the people you were fighting for, you're going to get to meet them, and it's going to be the greatest experience. You're in the best place you could possibly be. And I gave him a hug. I just met him, gave him a hug. And that hit me so hard watching this dude, like rugged dude, can see his soul fucking bleeding from what he had to do, trained to do. There was innocence there too. You have to wrestle that your rest of your life. It doesn't go away. I don't understand it. I can't feel it, but I can feel him. That's what these Mike and you and your buddies did for the entire nation and the world. I think, how could I sit back and do nothing? How? I can't. This is not in my DNA. So we have so many reasons to fight, folks. You just have to find a reason that drives your soul. And if we find enough people that get to that, shit, this thing's over in a couple years. It really is. I say that with absolute certainty. This a couple years, it's over. If the people finally say, we got to go, let's go. Anyways, defer to you, Lewis.
Well, you know that we can be compromised very easily. We were compromised with the COVID shot. I remember Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. I was on shows with her, and a lot of other people were telling everybody, don't get the shot. And she was even saying back then, several years out, that's when this thing is really going to start to hit, where people are really going to start to die, because that's the way it's designed. So she said that back then. And now we're seeing the death numbers, which they're covering up quite significantly, are increasing on a massive scale. So we can see that we can very easily be compromised, even though guys like us are screaming at people not to get that shot. I was telling people not to get the shot before it even started. I already knew that it was going to be bad. I had people in the background that telling me they already have batches that are very, very compromised, that are going to really destroy humanity. And I was like, how did that happen? How did they get that out there? But they did. And what's next? What's next? We have to be very vigilant. And I hope the people now are open to, when we say don't, or get involved with this, get involved with tactical civets, start to get involved more. It's we the people that make this change. Not Donald Trump, not the three of us, we the people. And if we the people don't respond, we the people will cease to exist.
Yep. So I love math. I don't know what it is. By the way, failed every math class. Almost didn't make it out of high school, but I absolutely love math. But I failed for
Kind of scares me. That whole dynamic you just said scares me.
I know. It's the fact that I could fail math classes and still love it. It was more of a personality issue than a understanding issue. That's a whole nother story. But I've done the math, and I can tell you unequivocally that if 0.1% of us stood up locally, this would be over, as Scott says, in a year or two. And I can prove that number right here. Let's say you have a school district that there's 50,000 people that live in that district. They're about ready to put in pornographic material or trans reading hour or whatever it is. If 1% of the people came into the school board meeting with the exact same message, and this is the key, what happens is we get very spread out. And I've been in several board of supervisors meetings. I've been kicked out of Maricopa's board 2 times, and I don't even live there. So, but if you have the same message, pinpointed, targeted message is the key. It's the tip of the spear is what wins. You go through, right? But you go into these meetings, and one person will be saying a prayer, and another one will scream this and this. You got to get organized. But imagine the 50,000 people, only 0.1% showed up. That number is only 50 people. You have 50 people with the same message in that board of supervisors meeting, they will eliminate all porn from the library, and they will not have trans reading hour. We've seen it time and time and time again. So what I ask people to do, and this is why I say the micro fixes the macro, just be 1/10. Just be 1/10. One out of 1,000, stand up and say, you know what? I'm not going to take it anymore, and motivate a couple to do the same. And this is over really, really soon. Because honestly, and I know this pisses people off that want it done now, I don't want the Trump administration to fix everything for us, because we'll be right back here in a couple of decades.
Yep.
If we don't take ownership of this ourselves and take accountability, because the reality is we are accountable for being here for whatever reason it is. We turned a blind eye to something. We weren't paying attention. I was too busy jumping out of a plane or cliff diving or playing football, something I enjoy, right? It's my fault. So we need to take accountability for the positive result, and then we will own it for 1,000 years to come. So I love that Trump administration is doing what they're doing. But the last thing I need is a savior, because I think that's not going to put us in the position for a long-term win. And I believe God does win. I believe God did win. But if we, the people, don't step up, we're not going to reap the harvest.
So Catherine Austin Fitz was on Tucker Carlson recently. She talked about a lot of good stuff. I've always liked her, and she talked about how there were underground bases, trillions of dollars, going to these underground bases and so forth. And she talked about how there was a group of people that were active in, solving issues, solving problems. And so she put it to these 100 people that were involved in helping people. And she's, if I gave you the ability to stop drug trafficking in the United States, would you do it? Would you take that responsibility? Would you push that button that would stop drug trafficking in the United States? So of these 100 people, only one raised their hand that they would do it. So it's a very, very tough road, and they all had different responses. I want my retirement. I don't want to rock the boat, so I wouldn't get that. And I mean, what I would, if I had to live in a tent for the rest of my life, I would push that button. If I had to live out in the open for the rest of my life, I would push that button. I just had a son that passed because of that.
And that's why we have to fight this war as viciously as we can, because like you, Mike, the pain that we know you're going through every day, you carried extremely well because of who you are. Well, you're built, how you built yourself. But there is no greater pain in the world than a life being taken because of them running these drugs into this country, and our politicians have facilitated. If you don't, folks, you don't have reason to fight. I don't know what else they'll do that. We have a slaughterhouse that's been activated and facilitated by U.S. politicians who are part of it or doing nothing about it. That's why I hate to say this, but I despise these people. I despise all of them because, again, they're fighting the wrong fights in D.C. That alone is a declaration of war directly from Canada. And these forking cowards are in Georgetown right now, loading up for a beautiful steak dinner on your government credit card, hanging out with all their people, ass kissing, all the parties. That's what they're doing while our kids are dying because of this fentanyl invasion. I don't have kids. That's why I don't understand. How can people not come out swinging, knowing that there's six figures of our children, kids being addicted to this shit and dying in tragedy? The death is one thing. It's the travesty that is ongoing for the rest of a lifetime of people who are their children or, parents, kid, whatever. This shit's kept me awake at night for decades. All of this stuff, like, why are we letting this happen? And as I always said before, we've proven the political class, the scumbag class outside of Donald Trump and his troops, they're never going to do anything because they never, ever have. That's what turned me into this profane, like, lunatic that, was going to be a statesman one day. It's because they never have. I don't care what words come out of their mouth. They're effing liars, or they're thieves, or they're killers, or all of the above. They've never made our lives better and safer in the 35 years that I've watched, but they become millionaires and they live in privilege. USAID and Doge, it's showing all of us this. What more do we need to know? I don't know. What more? But it's doable. I mean, there's it is so doable. You know what it is more than anything else? Because we need the numbers? Nope. We do need the numbers. But when there's an activation that activates another person, and two becomes four,
Mhm.
eight becomes 16. It's geometric 32, 64, 128, 256, 512. Because you think just a couple numbers. Wait till you get up to about 30 evolutions of that. 1,024, 2,048, 4,096, 8,100, whatever that is, becomes 16,000. And it just keeps doubling 32,000, 60. Before you know it, boom. It's so massive because the energy is feeding it. It's the energy that feeds it. It's not that we need to just mathematically get more and more and more. It's the mushroom cloud. It always happens at 3%. It turns into a freaking mushroom cloud. And when that happens, folks, I'm telling you, these ice holes will be diving off of, bridges and shit to get away from you because they know it's coming. They know there's nothing else good going to happen to them because the people finally said we've had enough. When's that point? I don't know.
Yeah,
When's that point? We know it's coming. We just don't want a bigger body count till it gets there. That's it.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, appreciate you guys coming on today for Roundtable. It's always a great discussion. I'm sure the people out there heard the message today loud and clear. I don't know how they say that at DevGru, Mike, get off your fork and ass, pick something up and start running. I think that's how it goes. I don't know. I was never there.
I just say at the end of the day, I hope the impression you leave on the world is bigger than the one you left on your couch.
I like that. That's good. Well, I have to say this. I always find stories about Jaco. I got to tell stories about Mike Jaco. So one of his candidates said it was in training when Mike, when you were instructor, something about like an engine block on the beach, and had to be picked up. You make him carry up this engine block up the beach or something. And I don't know what happened there, but you're like got pissed or something, and like you just picked the engine block up, walked it up the beach. Like for whatever example you're making, folks, go find an engine block somewhere, pick it up, find a beach, do something. Anyways, well, I can tell you, the nation of patriots are mourning the loss of Michelangelo. My audience saw a great tribute we did to him. So you're not alone. It's affecting all of us, and we love you like you can't imagine. The mad respect the entire patriot movement has for you, Mike, is unmatched because of what you did for 35 years before you continued your battle here. And I know it's going to be your greatest victory, no doubt about it. It has a hell of a lot more meaning now for sure. So just know that when we're out there fighting every day, it's no longer just for we the people, it's for our comrades who lost people on the battlefield. And you took a big loss, and that alone, we do not stop this fight until we win or they kill us, one or the other. That's the only I laid that out in the beginning. You're gonna have to kill me. You're gonna have to shoot me. This shit's not gonna stop. Until then, we're gonna keep doing what we got to do here. So that alone, that resolve is what's gonna win this thing. And we just need a few more people to kick in.
And he was part of the battle too. He did a lot of stuff behind the scenes and had a bunch of shows, exposing stuff as well. He did excellent research. And
Mhm.
just like your dad that was taken out, we all have had losses. So
Mhm. It binds us together. It binds all the warriors together, all the people that are fighting that lost family members because of their kill shot. It binds us all together. Pretty hard not to find a reason to continue the fight and win it. This one we win. That's why the little video I put together 5 years ago for the radio show. In that one shot, it has Trump's face and it has this and Kennedy and Trump. It says, "This time you lose." And I still believe that this time they lose. And so
very
we
good.
are going to win. Anyways, guys, much love, folks. Thanks for coming on, watching us on Roundtable tonight. I'm sure you enjoyed it. And, make your comments in the bottom. And with that, I'll say for Lewis Herms, Mike Jaco, Patriot Street Fighter crowd, Patriot Street Fighter out.
All right.